Welcome back to another Edgework Series preview, and today we're going to be breaking down the Tampa Bay Lightning Florida Panthers first round series. It seems like in the East, as specifically in the Atlantic, we've gotten exactly what we were looking for from an entertainment perspective. Leafs, Bruins, the Battle of Florida, Panthers, Lightning. So today we'll break down the matchup, see how everything goes between those two teams, how they might fare against each other. We'll dig into some of the series prices here as well. And on top of all that, we'll give our best bets and predictions. And to help me do that today, we're going to be joined by Alex P. Smith, Matt Alber, and So Money Sports to dig into this one. So, Alex, let's just get right to it. When you look at these two teams, how they were this season, the Panthers 2-1 against the Lightning this year. You look at their last playoff meeting a couple years ago, and it was electric. It was pure chaos. I don't really foresee it being much like that or the exact same as it was the last time they went head-to-head, but this time we're also seeing the Panthers out at a more bigger of a price than maybe some people might have thought going into the season. You see Florida minus 196, the Lightning plus 170. How do you kind of handicap this matchup between these two teams, the prices that we're getting right now, and just how they might fare against each other?
Well, it's just funny how things can change in just a couple of years. We were, talking about Tampa Bay Lightning team that won back-to-back Stanley Cups, have made run 3 years in a row representing the Eastern Conference as Prince of Wales champion. But along the way, they take on a Florida Panthers team that seemed to be kind of turning the tide. You're starting to see, butts and seats and sunrise, something that you hadn't been able to say since the 90s when that team was based in Miami. And it was a quick, fast, and a hurry series for the Tampa with a 4-0 sweep. One of the big catalysts in that playoff series and something that I just kind of harbored on was the beginning of that series. And I remember watching this vividly saying to anyone who would listen to me, Florida, as bad as they played game one in that playoff series, if they didn't come out hot in game two, they were getting swept. Sure enough, they did not have the steam in any point in game two. They ended up getting blown out. And to make matters a little bit worse was the whole fiasco of the Panthers going to a strip club between games 3 and 4, thinking that might have been a little bit of a morale boost. That ended up being a whole kind of sham and debacle and didn't help one bit as Tampa Bay brushed off the Panthers and went on to sweep them. Now we're talking about a Florida team that has made the run to the Stanley Cup final just last year off of that miraculous setup that they had late in the season, getting in as a wild card, having the third stringer and Alex Lyon carrying them in, Sergei Bobrovsky earning every dollar of his contract finally, helping this team make the big run. We saw the emergence of Sam Reinhart as a star. We saw Tkachuk playing through some grisly injuries late to carry this team to help win the East, and thought that maybe they could have a little bit of a slow start this season because of that. Maybe there's a little bit of a cup loser hangover. That wasn't the case. This team was dynamite all the way through the season. Like I said, we saw tons of quality performances throughout the year. Sam Reinhart, 94 points, 57 goals. Matthew Tkachuk having another big year. Alexander Barkov, despite having some injuries at times, but still putting up an 80-point season. And they're hanging around, and they look like one of the top teams in the East. They end up winning the Atlantic late, and now they're taking on a Tampa Bay team that in a wild card spot. They're older. Vasilevsky was gone at the beginning of the year, dealing with some injuries. We saw Jonas Johansson and Matt Tompkins carrying this team for the first few months. Thought things could be out of control and this team could miss the playoffs altogether. That was a bet that I had going into the season. But they were able to weather the storm. Nikita Kucherov, arguably your MVP, having absolutely a tremendous season, 100 assists, only the fifth person in NHL history to do that. Steven Stamkos, longtime veteran and in a free agent year, not sure what's going to happen for him. He's been a miracle as well. So you got a great matchup here lining up. Two teams that don't like each other, the Sunshine State rivalry. This is going to be a fun one to watch for sure.
And So Money, as far as like series pricing goes here right now, seeing Panthers minus 196 at Pinnacle, we see the Lightning plus 170 right now. What are your thoughts on just where these numbers are coming in, and do you see anything different than what your numbers are showing?
No, so like on paper, Florida has advantages across the board. You can even argue Florida has the advantage in goaltending, right? And that's really difficult to say when the guy at the other end is Andrei Vasilevsky, right?
Yeah.
But that is where we are right now, right? I do have a Tampa Bay to win the Eastern Conference ticket, but this was not the matchup that I wanted, right?
Right.
So, yeah, on paper, it's not close, right? The only There's a discipline factor that I think Florida needs to watch out for a little bit. They do take a lot of penalties. They are susceptible to get caught running around sometimes. And Tampa Bay does have the ability to kind of weather storms, right? Whether it's their whole season or throughout individual games. Florida is rightfully favored. Probably they should win. The pricing is fair. And Tampa Bay is going to need a lot here. They are going to need Bobrovsky to kind of, I guess, not revert back, but he has shown that he can have a tough time sometimes. So that is what Tampa Bay will need. They'll need all-world Vasilevsky. They'll need their power play clicking, right? So there's a lot more Tampa Bay needs for them to go right to be successful. And there's a lot less that Florida needs to be successful. So that's why, rightfully so, Florida is the heavy favorite right now.
And Alber, I see that you've changed your entire location to prepare yourself for this one. Seems a little bit brighter. Have you headed down there to Sunrise to kind of handicap the matchup between these two?
Yeah, we grabbed a flight from Toronto earlier, made a quick stop at Kanish's house to do the podcast, and then we'll head down to Florida. No, I agree with a lot of what so many was saying there about like Florida being a deservingly big favorite, and I feel like this is one that like a lot of people may look at and say, "Wow, that's a really big number for Florida." To me, the difference that he touched on was Vasilevsky, right? Like, I think it's crazy that we're kind of going into a playoff series right now, and we're saying that Tampa Bay, with a seemingly healthy Vasilevsky, does not have an edge in net, but I don't think they do. And like, I know that a lot of people are kind of like, oh, he's just going to be able to turn it on, and like he's going to be the Vasilevsky of old, and like he certainly could, but I think that's a tough thing to rely on when you look at a Florida team that like they're about to get Verhaeghe back, they're about to get Ekblad back, like they're about to be at full health kind of going into this series too. It feels like you need a lot of things to go right if you're Tampa Bay to kind of hang in there. And like so many was saying, like it's just not a great matchup for him here, kind of in the first round. Yeah, I do think it'll be tough for Tampa here.
All right, well, let's get to our best bets portion of this series breakdown. We're going to go through, do the matchups, do the best bets. Everyone gives out a best bet, and then we'll finish off with predictions. But Alex B., let's start with you. You're looking at this one a couple of different ways. What is it that you're looking at right now that you're saying, I got to be betting on this, this is where I'm finding an edge, this is where I have an advantage?
So the beauty of having all these different ways to bet on series is that you can kind of create a wheelhouse effect for how you want to attack a series. My initial gut feeling and what I bet on is Florida to win this series in 6 games. So I have that split amongst series of number of games in series to go 6 games at plus 200. I also have Florida to win the series exactly 4-2 at plus 450. Now I have a little bit smaller of a designation on Florida to win the series 4-1 to wrap in 5 games, but I believe that we talk about this Florida and Tampa needing a lot more tangibles to hang around in this. If it goes to a game 7, and we're talking about this veteran pedigree of Stamkos and Kucherov and Point and Hedman and Vasilevsky, I would be rolling with Tampa Bay to close this thing out in 7 games. So the way that I added with those is that I have a Tampa Bay to win series 4-3 plus 600, and I also have essentially exact series outcomes for those 6 and 7 game series. So I can just kind of run down quickly. I like the series to alternate within the first 4 games. So I have Florida game 1, Tampa game 2, Florida game 3, Tampa game 4, then Florida game 5 in both of these exact series outcomes. But I also have Florida to win game 6 and close out, along with those others at plus 4,000, so 40-1. And then I have where Tampa would win game 6 and 7. That's something that I have that I would cash in at 100-1. So those are much smaller shots to try to get everything exactly. But the crux of it all is that Florida should wrap this thing up in 4 or 5 games, or 5 or 6 games. And if they let Tampa Bay hang around and go to a 7th game, the Lightning would have the advantage.
Right. All right, well, there you go. There's a unique way to approach this one, as we kind of talked about, looking at some of the different markets, different ways that you can attack it, whether it be series spreads, just outright winners, some of the two lead series in goals, or who's going to win game one versus who's going to win game two, different angles to approach from that perspective. There's another one, so people can definitely take away from these and use it to help themselves bet within these series as well. And so, Money, I know that throughout some of the series previews, you've given a couple of different angles to take. How is it that you're going to approach this series today, this week?
So we're going to go back to the top goal scorer here. So you have the Florida top line, right? You got the Tarasenko, Barkov, Reinhardt on the top line. They'll get all the attention. That is where Tampa Bay needs to. If they have any success, that line needs to be shut down. Now, the problem for Tampa Bay is that there's a ton of depth on that Florida lineup, right? So it's especially in the top three lines. So where I'm looking at is that I think that Florida has the avenue here to take advantage of their depth, which means that they'll get scoring from the second line, because I don't think that Tampa Bay can match up a second line with what Florida can throw at them. So if Florida is going to have success in this series, I agree with Alex. It'll be a quick series if it is Florida. And that means that they probably ran Tampa Bay out of the building, which means that you have a large goal scoring differential, which means that chances are you got a lot of production from that second line. So the guy on that second line that I'm looking at targeting is Carter Verhaeghe. 8-1 Verhaeghe to be the top goal scorer in the series.
Right, there you go. There's another different way to approach the series. And final one here, Alber, wrapping up the best bets section of the series preview. What do you got for us between Tampa and Florida?
Yeah, so on a similar note, kind of with Florida, I did lay just kind of minus 170 as an early number on them, kind of in the series as a whole. But I think kind of to what Alex was saying before, like kind of when you like that, there are a lot of other options. The other one I usually kind of go to if I'm laying a team to win a series, especially as a favorite, is kind of like I look at the 1.5 is the first thing to kind of finish it in 6. Like, especially one like this where there's a little bit less of a home ice advantage here. I don't mind having them like 4-2, 4-1 in the series, whatever it kind of is, right? So I did lay a little bit of minus 1.5. I think I got plus 120 as well on that. And then I also like 4-1 is about plus 420, I think. So any of those, like, I think are good for smaller plays, but I did play minus 170 for a full unit here.
There you go. There's our best bets for this series, how we're going to be approaching these, how we're going to be betting, and hopefully people can take away from this and maybe use it to apply for anything else that they're thinking or anything that they were wondering about. And maybe this will kind of push you closer and closer, give you some more perspective of the different ways that we're going to be attacking this. Now, final thing here that we'll go through, and we'll go around in order. Alber, we'll start with you. First and foremost, who's winning this series and what is the series outcome?
I will go with Florida in 6.
All right. And so, Money, where are you at?
As much as I would like Tampa Bay to win this series for my own monetary benefit, I think we'll have Florida in 5.
Okay. And Alex B., what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think it's Florida in 6. Like I said, I think they are able to kind of bury what happened a couple of years ago in the playoffs, and they know that being from the hunter to the hunted in just a year. They definitely don't want to be a team to get bounced out of the first round after bouncing the best regular season team ever last year in the first round. So I think they come fired up and ready, and they take care of business in 6 games. Florida Panthers.
I'm going Lightning in 7. I want to see the upset. I want to see someone shocked. I want to see this team show up for the playoffs. Maybe Florida goes in there a little bit too full of themselves. You never know, and feel, you know what, we're the big dog now. We're the big dog down in Florida, and then Tampa comes out and punches them right back in the face. And as we said, Vasilevsky, we've thought, you know what, and I agree with you guys that going into this, if we're going to project it, they don't have the goalie advantage between Tampa and Florida right now. But At any given moment, we've seen these goaltenders around the NHL. It doesn't matter if you're the best goaltender ever or if you're the most mediocre goaltender ever. You get to the playoffs, a switch can be flipped, and you could black out one way or the other. And I feel like Vasilevsky's one of those guys who could just turn it on here. I'm not necessarily thinking, hey, he's going to do it, but I feel like there's a good chance he could. And if he does, then this series turns a lot different, in my opinion, than kind of where we're currently looking at it. But I do agree with your assessment, just to kind of tie it all back together, that as of right now, unless that happens, I think it's going to be fairly difficult for Tampa. But you know what? Given the ability for him to turn it around, I think that could be the case.
I hope you're right, man.
We'll see.
If any of us are right, I'm cashing the ticket out of the way because, like I said, it all kind of lays on that plan. Florida should take care of business early, but if they let them hang around, you get to a game 7, and you're not going to get plus 600 on anything Tampa Bay if it goes to game 7. You're not going to have that series price. You're not going to have that game price. So grab it now if you think chaos could happen later.
Yeah. And Alber, any final thoughts here?
Yeah, and you mentioned that with Vasilevsky could easily turn it on. But Bobrovsky could easily just turn into a pumpkin again. I think he's he's pretty high variance as far as goalies go, kind of going into the playoffs. Last year we obviously saw what he did, but he wasn't even playing down the stretch for that team because he wasn't playing well. Lyon was playing great. So there definitely is kind of a path here where all of a sudden we look at it after a couple of games and go, holy crap, this Tampa's right in this, and they should be pretty much a pick 'em at this point in 1-1 series, right? So it's you definitely kind of see that possibility out there at least.
All right, well, that'll do it for our series preview. We appreciate everyone who tuned in. Matt, Alex, So Money, I appreciate you guys taking the time to do this and help us break this one down, give out your predictions and your best bets. But thanks to everyone who watched. If you haven't already, hit that like button, subscribe here to the channel. We got more coming, as well as daily live shows breaking down the games that are happening that night and giving out our best bets. Thank you guys so much for watching. Drop your comments below. What are your predictions? Where are we right? Where are we wrong? What do you agree with, disagree with? We want to hear it. We want to see it. So thanks so much for everyone who tuned in. We'll see you guys in the future for more Edgework series previews, predictions, and best bets.